why good things always seem to happen to me. Well, at Zappos, we don't want to hire the ones because they're just going to bring bad luck to Zappos, and we don't need Zappos. But this was actually inspired by a research study that I read about a few years ago, where they asked that exact same question, and got answers all over the board, some ones, some tens, a bunch in between. And then they had all the participants do a task. And the task was to go through a newspaper and count the number of photos that were in that newspaper. But what they didn't realize was that it was actually a fake newspaper. And sprinkled throughout the newspaper were these headlines that would say things like, if you're reading this headline now, you can stop, the answer is 37 plus collect an extra $100. And what they found was that the people that considered themselves unlucky in life generally never noticed the headlines. They went through the task at hand and eventually came up with the right answer. But the people that considered themselves lucky in life generally stopped early, made an extra $100. So the takeaway isn't so much that people are inherently lucky or unlucky, but that luck is really more about being open to opportunity beyond how the task or situation presents itself. And so that's why we asked that question for value number 4. Another one of our core values is about being open and honest, and we really try to embrace transparency as much as possible, whether it's with our employees or our customers or our vendors. And our belief is that companies are becoming more and more transparent, whether you like it or not, with Twitter, with blogging, and so on. It's just a matter of time, so you might as well embrace it. And so I'll give some examples of how we really commit to transparency. One is Twitter, I talked about that. Another is a newsletter called Ask Anything, where it's literally that employees can ask whatever question they want. They can ask about our finances or what brands we're going to carry, and we'll get the appropriate department head to answer that question, and we compile all of them together and then send it out to the entire company. With our vendors, we work with over 1,000 different brands, and normally the relationship between retailers and wholesalers is a little bit adversarial, as I understood it, standard in most other companies, but we really view our vendors as partners in the business. And so we give them login to our extranet where they can view the exact same information that our own buyers can see. So they can view on-hand inventory, sales, markdowns, profitability. And initially when we introduced this to our vendors, the reaction was, oh, that's great. This is a lot more information than we've ever had access to, but aren't you worried that this is going to get into the hands of competitors? And realistically, I'm sure some of the information does eventually make its way into the hands of competitors, but on the flip side, we now have an extra 1,000 pairs of eyes helping us co-manage the business, and they're not on our payroll. And what we found is actually, a lot of times, they'll notice stuff that our own employees will miss, because our employees are managing portfolios of 20 to 30 brands, whereas each vendor is just focusing on his or her one brand, and they're getting the nightly sales reports, and they're logging in, and they may notice a style that's about to take off that our own buyers might miss. So we found that the benefits far outweigh the risk, and it also builds up just much higher levels of trust. As I mentioned, we offer tours to the public. Tours are Monday through Thursdays, and there's some days where we have 50 tours going on at once. And then what we found after we started offering those tours, because the tours take about an hour, that certain companies like Southwest Airlines or Lego said they wanted to spend an entire day or sometimes 2 days with us and maybe spend a couple hours listening on calls, a couple hours with our HR recruiting team, and so on. So that actually led us to develop this program called Zappos Insights, where we have live seminars where people come in. We actually have people present, we share everything. So if they want to know what the interview questions are, then we'll have our head of recruiting actually share our internal documents for that. And we also do that online as well at zapposinsights.com. And then when reporters come and visit the office, what happens at most large companies is they're escorted by the PR person that says, you can talk to this VP over there and this PR person over there, but don't talk to anyone else. Well, we take the opposite approach. We give them a tour, and we tell them the bathroom is over here, and lunchroom is over there, and then walk around, talk to whoever you want, and whenever you're done, come find me. And the reason we're comfortable doing that is, it doesn't matter who they talk to. They're not going to use the exact same words, but we know we've hired people whose personal values match the company's core values, and we know that our employees all understand the long-term vision of the company. And after talking to 5 or 10 employees, reporters come back to us and they say they're surprised at how consistently everyone acts and how consistently genuine that all the employees are. And they're not just citing some company line that they've been told to cite because they're all using different words, they're all using their own words. So this is a common reaction we get. Happy for you, you have a strong corporate ethic, but it would never work at my company. What the research has shown, if you read Good to Great, is that it actually doesn't matter what your core values are. What matters is that you have them and that you're committed to them. What matters is the alignment. So I'm not up here trying to say you should come and adopt Zappos' core values. Those are just the core values that are right for our company and our culture. But you should figure out what your core values are, what you want them to be, and make sure that you really commit to them. By committing to them, meaning that you're willing to hire and fire based on them. A lot of people ask me, if I could do Zappos all over again, what would I do differently? And for the most part, I wouldn't do anything differently. We've made a lot of mistakes along the way, but we also learn from those mistakes, and a lot of times, having made those mistakes and learn from those actually made our condition that much stronger in the future. So I would not wish for us to not have made those mistakes, but one thing I do wish is that we had rolled out our core values from day one. And it was one of those things that there was initially a lot of resistance to, even from myself personally, because it felt like one of those kind of big company things to do. But within a couple months after rolling them out, suddenly everyone had a common language and everyone was just automatically thinking in the same direction. And it makes such a huge difference. I think we would have gotten to where we are today not much faster if we had done it from day one. The second thing that both of those books noticed and separated the great competitors from the other ones is this idea of vision, having something that is bigger than just money or profits or being number one in the market. Having a higher purpose in the company. And sometimes I get asked at entrepreneur conferences, oh, what's a good market to go into where I can make a lot of money? And my advice to the entrepreneurs, that's kind of the wrong approach. If you're focused on the money, you're actually more likely to be unsuccessful. Instead, think about what would you be so passionate about doing that you'd be happy doing it for 10 years, even if you never made a dime. And that's what you should be doing. And kind of the ironic thing is, if you actually take that approach, the money will actually follow. If you look at Craigslist, for example, Craig was not trying to make money, he was just passionate about the community and what he was building, but the users can sense that, and the employees can sense that, and the vendors can sense that as well. And we found the same thing happening at Zappos. We started out just selling shoes online, and then that was our only goal. Let's just become the market leader in shoes. And then probably about 4 years into it, we sat around one day and asked ourselves, what do we want to be when we grow up? Do we want to be about shoes, or do we want to be about something more meaningful? And when we asked ourselves that, we decided, okay, let's be about customer service. Let's build our brand around that. And when we told our employees that was the new vision for the company, we found that employees were suddenly a lot more engaged and excited. And when vendors could come to the office, they would see that our employees were passionate, so they themselves would become more excited. And when customers called, they could tell the person on the other end of the phone wasn't there just for a paycheck, just to work 9 to 5. And so all of these things have this multiplicative snowball effect that really, I think, made a huge difference in the company. So my advice to entrepreneurs is chase the vision and not the money. And the money will actually, ironically, follow. There was a movie that came out a couple of years ago called Notorious, in which rapper Puff Daddy says to Notorious B.I.G., don't chase the paper, chase the dream. I just want an excuse for this. So, if you're an entrepreneur, my advice is to think about what would you be so passionate about doing that you'd be happy doing it for 10 years, even if you never made a dime. And if you have employees, think about what's the larger vision and greater purpose in the company and in your employees' work beyond just money or profits or being number one in the market. There's a lot of consultants and books that talk about how to motivate employees. And there's plenty of ways to motivate employees. You can motivate employees through